Money Moicano cannot afford to lose. He goes out there and brutalizes Benoit Saint Denis. What a performance. I mean, he showed there's levels to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's absolutely one of the best Jiu-Jitsu fighters at 155 pounds. Benoit is very big, he's very strong, he's got a lot of power, but technically, he just does not match Renato Moicano. In the heavier weight classes, it's a lot easier to beat the best guys with your attributes, right? Don't have to rely too much on technique and skill. But in the lower weight classes like lightweight, it's a completely different story. Man, a lot of people thought that BSD was going to be too strong, too big, and too powerful, but Moicano is just technically better. BSD was nearly a 3-1 favorite going into the fight. A lot of people thought that Benoit Saint Denis was a sure win against Renato Moicano. That's not how the lightweight division works. That works at middleweight, that works at light heavyweight and heavyweight, but at lightweight you have to be the more technical and skilled fighter. It's way harder to just bum rush and overpower and just be too strong in a fight when you're looking at bantamweight to lightweight, where the best skilled fighters are at, right? It's those 3 weight classes. Very difficult to just steamroll anybody based on how strong and powerful you are. From middleweight to heavyweight, it's a completely different story, right? Attributes and power and strength and all that sort of stuff is way more important for those kind of fighters until they evolve and start to match the lighter weight classes like they have before. Benoit Saint Denis swings big. He's knocked out opponents with one shot. He's a big guy who used to fight at welterweight. He can cause a lot of damage if he lands his shots, but even defensively on the feet, Renato Moicano was way ahead of BSD. Solid fundamental striking, and you can only imagine with fighters like Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier and the other better strikers of the weight class, if they fought someone like Benoit Saint Denis who relies on his attributes. If Renato Moicano can get away from the kicks and the punches, block the shots, and even counter with his own jab and stuff like that, can you imagine what Islam would be able to do? Or Volkanovski, or Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria, who's probably the best boxer in the UFC. When it comes to the ground, Renato Moicano probably is the smaller of the two. Benoit Saint Denis probably has more brute strength than Moicano, but it's hard to just win off of that. Moicano showed what high skill and technique looks like in the lightweight division. There's very few fighters I think that can grapple with Moicano and do well. Maybe Islam Makhachev is one of them. I think Paddy Pimblett could be competitive with him. Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira would be a very interesting grappling exchange. Imagine Moicano and Oliveira just going transition from transition, submission to submission. That would have been insane. But Benoit Saint Denis, even though being one of the best jiu-jitsu guys at lightweight, Moicano showed that there are levels to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Even without having a strong wrestling base, he was able to eventually get BSD to the ground, and it started with the striking. Oh, and this sequence is very smooth from Moicano. Kick out the leg, squaring BSD up for the jab to the face. Beautiful stuff, my brother. In the beginning of the fight even, Benoit Saint Denis was throwing naked punches, was not masking them, was not setting them up well, wasn't using them with combinations or anything like that, no feints, nothing. He was just throwing punches from range. Left hand, a few times, and look at the form. He's reaching all the way forward. His left foot is off the mat. His entire body is moving forward in one single direction. That makes it a lot more obvious for Renato Moicano to counter. He knows all he needs to do is get off the center line or just move back. He's also the longer fighter too, so Benoit has to find a way to get in and not reach from distance like that. So he threw a couple of these left hands out there, and then he threw a naked kick. This is the thing about Renato Moicano. Moicano's always been very good at defending kicks, whether they're leg kicks even earlier in the round. He checked an inside leg kick from Benoit. Then Benoit threw a body kick. They're in opposite stances, so the open side is there for him to throw. When two fighters are in opposite stances, both of their power kicks are open on each other. But Benoit threw the kick with no setup, no feint. Moicano easily saw it and grabbed the kick, and that's what he used to take the fight to the ground. A fighter doesn't need a strong double leg to take the opponent to the ground. They can time their strikes and counter those to make the takedown a lot easier. And the kicking defense here is a reason why I think he would also beat Paddy Pimblett. Paddy's best strikes are his kicks. And Renato has always been very good at checking leg kicks, catching body kicks, keeping his hands up if they come up to the head and stuff. Like, a lot of people think that Paddy's just way too powerful and he would just steamroll Moicano in the stand-up, but I think a lot of fans would be surprised with how well Moicano will do on the feet with Paddy Pimblett, and how much better he is on the ground than Paddy too. That's another thing that was shown in this fight with Benoit Saint Denis, who's one of the best jiu-jitsu guys at lightweight, and Moicano made it look like he didn't even belong on the ground with him. So right away, Benoit was going for the butterfly hooks to elevate Renato Moicano up. He was trying to find a way to get out of the bottom position and stand back up to his feet, which was working a few times, right? He was able to at least elevate Moicano, but Moicano did a really good job of holding onto the body, grasping back down, and not allow Benoit to rotate and stand up. This happened a few times in the fight. fight. Until this moment where Benoit again was able to kick off Renato Moicano, and as Moicano's standing above him, Benoit started to throw a lot more kicks. That's where Moicano was able to get past the kicks, flip Benoit over by pushing on the legs, and get to his back. Benoit made a rookie mistake of trying to just stand up from his base. He literally tried to just stand up from that position, and you cannot do that against Renato Moicano. He would get your back instantly. He's very fast with all of his transitions. Because of that, he got Benoit Saint Denis back, and that was pretty much the beginning of the end for Benoit Saint Denis. Renato started landing ground and pound, got the body triangle. Benoit spanned to the opposite direction. When a fighter's in a body triangle, they have to rotate into where the foot is, right? But Benoit spanned the other way, which made it even worse because Moicano was able to transition the back take into a full mount while keeping the body triangle. That was a horrible position for Benoit Saint Denis, and that's where the majority of the damage was happening. I mean, the full mount position, they like to say that it's not that effective in MMA anymore, but grapplers like Moicano make that position still very dominant. And Benoit Saint Denis looked like he went through 4 rounds of damage inside of 1 round. He had 2 big cuts on his eye, as it was also swollen. That was really bad. Like, I would love to have seen the fight continue because Benoit's just that tough, right? He was still throwing shots, he was still trying to win the fight, but that eye was really bad, man. And if the fight continued, because there were 3 more rounds, right? 3 more rounds of damage, and it looked like Benoit really didn't have much for Moicano from that point. Only can see through one eye, couldn't dictate distance because of that. Moicano could have just started landing left hooks and high kicks on that side. If he took him down again, I mean, it would have been a finish, most likely. Benoit Saint Denis is as tough as they come, but I do understand why the doctor stopped the fight. And even in the stand-up in the second round, which they did give to Benoit Saint Denis, it felt like Moicano took the round off a bit. He wasn't going for a finish, even though he had a wounded opponent in front of him. We've seen him fight faster and more aggressively against fresh opponents, let alone a fighter who could only see through one eye and was practically like halfway through a TKO. And even in that round, Moicano was doing a good job of blocking punches, countering with his 1-2. He has such a good jab, moving away with it, countering Benoit Saint Denis. Renato Moicano looked amazing in this fight, man. And after the fight, he called out Paddy Pimblett and Dan Hooker. I think he beats Paddy Pimblett. I think he's better on the ground than Paddy. I think he has more technical striking. He has good kicking defense, which is the main thing that Paddy works with in the stand-up, which can force Paddy to throw punches. And I think that's where Renato Moicano will be able to counter him with the 1-2, stick to the straight shots, use his reach, and also experience of fighting guys like Jose Aldo and Rafael Vaziev and actual very good strikers, while also having better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in my opinion. Paddy's like very athletic with his grappling, right? He's like going for triangles and scrambling and transitioning all the time. He's got kind of like that fast-paced guard game, right? Moicano has that controlled, fundamentally sound, strong base kind of grappling, which I think usually beats the style that Paddy Pimblett is effective with. So I do think he would beat Paddy by maybe a submission if it's a 5-rounder. If it's 3 rounds, I think he wins on the scorecards. But if he fights Dan Hooker, I think Hooker beats Renato Moicano. I think he stuffs the takedowns and outstrikes him. I mean, he was able to stop Mateusz Gamrot's takedowns. He's also big, he's long, he's a way better striker than Moicano in pretty much everything, except defense. Moicano has better fundamental defense than Hooker. Hooker still relies on his chin. But against Moicano, I don't think it's going to be that much of a issue with the striking defense. I mean, he fought Dustin Poirier and a bunch of other guys that hit very hard. So I do pick Renato Moicano to beat Paddy Pimblett, and I pick the transformed Dan Hooker to beat Renato Moicano. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown, and I'll see you guys in the next video.